Okay, let's take a look at the corn problem. Now, in the unfettered free market, we know there's an equilibrium price, Q, and P that both the buyers and the sellers pay. So we can easily solve for the equilibrium just by setting these two equations equal, right? So 3 plus 1/4 Q equals 8 minus Q. Do a little rearrangement, and what you end up is the Q equilibrium equals 4, and the equilibrium price equals 4. Okay, now, but that's the free market price. Let's go down to question 6. This is where we got to find that surplus. So the government comes in and says, okay, corn growers, you're right. You've been lobbying us, and you're right. You deserve $4.25 a bushel. We really want to incentivize corn production. So government comes in and puts a price floor at $4.25. Now this becomes a binding constraint because now the price has to be higher than what people in general are willing and able to pay. So what happens if I set this price floor above the equilibrium? Well, a couple things happen, and this is where you just got to look and see where it intersects the supply and demand curve. So 425 intersects the supply curve right here. So suppliers or corn growers are going to be incentivized along the supply curve at that price to create QS, Q supplied. But if we raise the price, fewer people are going to want to buy it at that price. So the demand curve, it intersects here. Draw it down. So fewer people are going to demand it. All right, and since QS is greater than quantity demanded, we have an oversupply, or this would be basically the surplus. Easy enough, right? Now, how would we solve for this? Pretty simple. We just put in this equation. So P equals 3 plus 1/4 S. So from the quantity supplied, 425 equals 3 plus 1/4 quantity supplied. Of course, we can solve for that easily. 1.25 multiplied by 4 equals QS, or QS equals 5. So suppliers are going to be incentivized to produce more because the price goes up. So that makes sense, right? But again, on the demand side, right, the demand equation is given by this. So now you have 4.25 on the demand side equals 8 minus Q. So what does Q have to equal? That's right, 3.75. So people are going to demand less of it at that higher price, but growers are going to create more. So this right here creates that surplus of 1.75 billion bushels of corn. Okay? So how much corn does it have to purchase? Well, the government would purchase 1.7 billion bushels. How much would they pay to buy that, though? Well, again, you'd look at the area of this rectangle would be the cost the government would have to actually spend to buy that. So it would basically be 425 times the quantity, and that's how you figure out the cost of this policy, just by multiplying getting the area of that rectangle. Let's do the other one now. Let's take a look at question 7. So again, the government wants to support that 425. So let's just draw this out again. We know the equilibrium in the unfettered free market. It's 4 and 4. Government says, nope, we want to create a policy where suppliers get paid $4.25 to incentivize corn growing. So again, to the supplier side, it doesn't matter what the policy is. They're going to see $4.25 no matter what. So they're still going to be producing that 5 billion. That's awful text, sorry, but 5 billion bushels, right? They're still going to be producing that. The difference here, though, is instead of supporting the price in Policy 6, the government told farmers to sell their corn on the open market. Okay? So what does that mean? This is no longer a price floor, right? The price floor would mean people can't buy it for less than the floor. But they say, you know what? Sell it on the open market. and you'll get 425 no matter what. So at 425, again, intersects the supply curve here, so sellers are incentivized to produce this much. And to clear the market, meaning supply equals demand, okay, so this whole quantity has to get sold, we would drop down and basically intersect here because quantity supplied equals quantity demand. That's market clearing, right? It's all been shipped. So what we would do then is find this price. So what price would consumers pay if there were 5 billion bushels available? So again, plug this in here. This is the demand equation. The P is going to be 8 minus the Q, which we know the Q right here is 5. So the P over here is going to be 3. So consumers pay $3 per bushel, and that clears the market. Government says, hey, we'll pay you the difference. So government is going to pay $1.25 per bushel times 5 billion bushels, and you get $6.25 billion that the government would have to spend to support this policy. So which would you choose? Well, 6 is cheaper. So, if that's what you're going for, there you go.